Hello there, it is Shirley with Venus Wisdom on a Venus Day. And today I would like to talk about Venus in Aries, because Venus ingressed into Aries this week. I believe this is the first Venus Day here with Venus in Aries already. And we all know that Venus is considered in detriment in Aries. It's opposite the sign that it rules. Okay, it rules Libra and Taurus, so it's in detriment in Aries and Scorpio, and it's fallen in Virgo. So the moon just crossed Venus yesterday, so it's a very good time to speak about this energy. And to understand, well, Venus, before we even touch Venus, to understand Venus in Aries, we need to understand where is Venus. And Venus right now is in the sign that is ruling the start, the ignition of something new, the sense of self, the head of the baby, okay, the head, physically, the head, is ruled by Mars, so very active, moving forward. The energy goes out, um, and Venus itself, it rules connections, it rules our values, it rules also cars, certain means of transportation, connecting things. While Mars, that rules Aries, rules severing things. Okay, the individuation of the head of the baby that goes out of the body. Um, so Mars rules forward movement, linear, direct, especially in Aries, very direct. Okay, in Scorpio, it can be a bit more hidden. In Aries, is very direct. And Venus rules human relations, which we all know cannot be too direct. And deal a lot with drawing in people, abundance, um, connections, wealth. Okay, Venus is a sensual planet. It's where we allow things to arrive, to we relax and allow things in. Now, where does Venus and Mars connect? Because they do govern that which is the intercourse of Venus and Mars, right? Mars being the penetrative, Venus being the drawing in or the pulling in, the vacuuming in of energy. Um, Mars, by moving ahead, it's also, and severing ties, it's also making place and setting boundaries. And when we do that, we create a vacuum so something new can come in. Okay, we purge something, we purge more in Scorpio, but still, with our forward movement and initiation, we venture into the great vast and are being vacuumed forward. Um, but we also leave a gap behind us. And so that void is yin. Okay, Mars is yang, that void is yin. We're both being pulled towards something, and we also leave a gap behind us. Um, for Venus, it's not natural to act directly. Okay? The combination of Venus and Mars, so Venus being a Mars ruled sign, is to create that vacuum. Okay, to purge, to clean, to individuate, to make space, and to create that vacuum that draws in the new. Venus is also our voice and our singing and our art and our creative and sensual pleasure, but also creativity. It is creative in like drawing a painting, like dancing. Um, Venus is in it together with Mars is if I think of a song that describes it, and I have been hearing this song actually since I believe around the ingress of Venus to Aries, was the Mariah Carey song "Make It Happen." Venus makes things happen in Aries. It's not the Venus that things happen to her or draw things to happen or manifest things to happen or attract things to happen. She makes things happen. She goes out, she gets her way, she paves the path. And this is why uh, it's unusual for Venus to be in this territory. It's a Martian territory. It's the entrepreneur Venus. The potential that we have during this time in our lives is to make a new beginning, a breakthrough, to pave a path. And Aries requires us to pave a path for our own. Okay? It is Mars ruled, and this path is a path that emphasizes our sense of autonomy, our individual freedom, and freedom of expression. So, freedom of expression is already Venus in Aries. The opportunity we are having with this Venus, if you have it natally, then of course, but if you have it now in transit, is to have a new beginning in our finances, Venus finances, in our aesthetics, okay, how we see beauty. Because Venus, Libra, is about making the image of something beautiful. Venus in Aries is penetrative to the essence. I'm beautiful without makeup on, okay, or even a new type of wearing your makeup, okay, because Aries is something new, and it can also be a bit rebellious in itself. It's not Uranus, but it definitely is about individuation and something new that emphasizes freedom. So think about your concept of financial freedom. How do you act on your vision? Now we're also at the time of right after the first crescent moon. It's the time to act on your vision. Create something new. Okay, make music. Also, if you're a musician, you can write a new song right now during this time, especially right now, today, right now. Okay, even today, actually today, yesterday and today. Um, you can have a new relationship or initiate a new relationship. That, or if you have the desire to be more autonomous in your relationships, to take the initiative, Venus in Aries can actually help you. Say, I want to have a sense of autonomy. Also, Venus is about bringing things together, and you can come together with people who are freedom oriented. You can come to an agreement around the voice of freedom. Okay, and I can give concrete example from my life. Just this, we were talking about some taxes, some rules, some this, some that, no VAT, IRS, and so on and so forth. Then it was very easy for me to come into a very deep agreement with another woman about um, how the laws in my country support financial violence when we report the taxes. And it doesn't matter if you're the man or the woman, but whoever has the more net worth is considered the responsible for taxes for the entire family, okay, the entire household, if you are married. Okay, and so to have an agreement, which is of not in just mercurial is more contract, okay, but Venus is agreement, to agree on something, to bring opinions together. Okay, it was more possible to express that without being perceived as this radical person who is, bringing everything new together. So if wherever Aries is in your life, Venus can actually now in transit help you to get people to agree with you. It can also make you, if you are prone to be too stubborn, it can also allow you to compromise but without compromising your sense of self, because Aries is very sense of self oriented. Venus there can soften it a bit. If you think there is no place for compromise, Venus in Aries can help you find something in common with even people you compete with. So this is something that can actually happen. Of course, that can also mean you can have fights because Aries is Mars ruled, so you can have fights, arguments with Venusian people in your life. Okay, the relationship with Venusian people in your life can be more argumentative because Venus is in a Mars ruled sign and she's speaking up. Aries is also where, if you talk about the voice, where a person says, I disagree with you intensely. I think you're completely wrong, but I will die for the right for you to express your opinion in this world. Okay? Venus Aries accentuates this tendency. It is so necessary in our world where there's so many conflicts globally and people can really disagree with each other or feel that the opinion of the other person, the mindset, the position of the other person is against their own position. Okay, they can feel threatened to their lives, to the sense of self from the position of the other person. But Venus in Aries can, in fact, also remind you that you might not be the big enemies you think you are. Um, a case from a friend who is a lawyer, and he had a case. I believe it was today when Venus is in Aries, and he wrote about it publicly. So of course I said that he would not discuss with me anything that he cannot legally discuss. Okay, and one of this and the case was that a man was divorcing from his wife, and maybe her lawyer were doing all kinds of tricks to rip him off financially and to keep him from living his life respectfully. And then one sudden day, okay, the lawyer intervened and the wife said, okay, I'm willing to compromise. I'm willing to compromise, I'm willing to change my ways, I'm willing to compromise. The husband itself, he was like, I don't trust this person, of course. But the lawyer reminded him, and now we also have Jupiter in Aries, of actually a religious rule that if a person returns to the ways of alignment of the Lord or whatever, to correct ways, to moral ways, yeah, then you must at least give them a chance. If they return to correct ways, you must at least give them a chance. Because you want to show that you can be repentant. If you do change your ways, you can be repentant. And this is Judaism. It's not even yet Christianity. Christianity is even more so towards repentance. And definitely Islam. Um, and so the husband said, okay. And they had their agreement, their divorce agreement signed. mediated by the lawyer, and of course the lawyer who represented the woman, without having to go to court. Okay, will it hold? Won't it hold? I don't know. But this is also something that is very Venus Aries. Okay, we had a person, in this case, Venus, a woman who was very, very dominant, and she said, no, okay, I want to compromise. I repent the ways that I've behaved. I want to compromise. I'm ready to compromise. And they did compromise. Okay, so that is also something that happens during Venus Aries. Aries is very hard headed, but if it makes a mistake and it understands that they made a mistake or she made a mistake, they can repent. They can change themselves completely. Again, it's ruled by Mars, and Mars is also transformation from the core. Okay, who is the modern ruler of Scorpio? Is Pluto. Okay, Mars is ruling Scorpio, is ruling Aries. Okay, so Aries can be very hard-headed and stubborn, and sometimes it seems like the joke about the man who drives a car, and not really tragic joke, and he doesn't get it, he's wrong until he collides in a tree. Okay, however, Aries can also change their minds. They can also grow because it's the head of the baby. It's growth, change, transformation, igniting something new. So thanks for the likes. Um, so during this time, yes, there's the danger of conflict with Venusian figures, but the opportunity to come down from the tree you climbed. If you climb a tree that's too high in an argument, okay, two people are sitting on the tree, and they're stubborn in the ways. Venus in Aries gives you a chance to come down from the tree that you climb without having to collide in the tree, okay? So you can have a more softer approach without giving up your sense of self. This is the opportunity. A planet in its fall, and this is general, a planet in its fall, a planet is in its detriment, can also be seen as an antidote. Venus is an antidote to Aries, Aries is an antidote to Venus. Venus can be too agreeable, okay, or also focus so much on her sensual pleasure and forget her head, okay, or focus so much on material wealth and forget to try something new. If it focuses on security, for example, we have ruling also Taurus. And Aries can remind her that we need to get out, we need to start, bring life, the head of the baby, start something new, ignite something new. Sometimes the only security we have is to take that step in action, in spirit and matter, towards our dreams and pave the path, and then things come up and arrange themselves in front of us. Sometimes we just have to do it. We have to leap forward into the unknown. Okay? With and Taur and Aries is an antidote to Venus. Venus is also an antidote to Aries, okay, to the Mars tendencies. And so Venus can remind the in the domain of Aries, she can remind us that our sense of self is important, but we also want to connect with people. And she can also show us the way to connect with people. She can also show us what we have in common with people whose way of being, Mars' way, is different than our own. And we can find a common language or a sense of connection. So, all in all, we get a combination that is not classic Venusian, but is also not classic Martian. It's not, however, without tending to these energies, we can get a situation where we have a little bit of the dark sides of both. Okay, Venus can be too agreeable and too focused on the sensual pleasure. Mars can be too Martian. Okay, Aries can be too Martian, too much focused on maintaining autonomy, maintaining the sense of self without minding other people. So the combination of both is tricky, but it carries tremendous potential. Venus is also our fashion, our clothes, how we look. We might see more people who dress up Martian, okay, as a fashion. I saw as Venus ingressed into Aries, I began to see people wearing the clothes designed like Martian clothes, like army clothes, but just regular clothes. Okay, they were not serving in any army. They was just wearing some, t-shirt or pullover, and it was shaped and colored like the army clothes. And that is also okay. So army-oriented fashion. We can have more directness in our relationships and in our courting game. So a lot of, if you are dating or something like that, there can be a lot of honesty in the courting game. Not too much elaborated courting with Venus Aries. Okay, she initiates, she knows what she wants, and she's not especially manipulative. If somebody feels like they're being forced to lie, and this is the Aries tendency, they won't, like, they will fight to release themselves from that. And Venus can be more helpful because she can explain the desire to not have to lie, to be authentic, without making, making your statement without making an enemy. However, because Venus is connections and Aries is individuation, there can be a time where you can make some people who are, you just speak your voice, because Venus is the voice, so you voice whatever you very much identify. And Venus is also values, okay? So think about the sense of self and values. And sometimes you can actually come out of addiction in this time. So the good potential, because if you identify with your values and you say, okay, I'm clean from I don't know what, I'm clean, I am clean, you can become it. Okay, there's great potential to start, especially now. Okay, we had a new moon in Pisces. So I'm sober. Increase cleanliness, increase being sober, because Aries also rules the mind, clarity of mind. So I'm sober. You can act on it. If I think about myself, I am sober. How do I start my day? How do I act? What do I do? What do I eat? What do I drink? Okay? How do I treat myself? How do I treat other people? Um, I'm autonomous. I'm safe. I'm autonomous. Giving. This is also about security. Aries is the I am. It's a good time to create a new identity in your Aries house. I am wealthy. I'm a wealthy person. And now act on it. Now, of course, with reason, because Aries is also reason, being reasonable. It's also a time of being reasonable with our connections. It can actually be an antidote to people who tend to be what people call codependent, because Aries wants freedom. But you have to make sure that your identity is individuated. So you are not your relationship. You are not your partner. And so um, it's good to understand when your self-definition and your values being attached serves you, and when there is place for new values. Okay, because Venus Aries, if you have it, let's say natally, although Aries is not a fixed sign, Venus is our values. And Aries is also our sense of self. It's the I am. I think, therefore I am. Rene Descartes has had a stellium in Aries, if I'm not mistaken. I think, a spirit of matter about him. So you want to make sure that you're at least aware, at least tending to the understanding that we also don't want to be attached with our identity to values that no longer serve us. So as the moon will be decreasing, okay, we have a full moon in the 7th and then it begins to decrease. While Venus is still in Aries, it's absolutely time to begin to let go of the values. Okay, since the full moon is in Virgo, as the moon is still in Virgo, you can manifest it. Even in the full moon, you can begin to set the intention to let go of the values that no longer serve you. To let go of attachment to your values in ways that no longer serve you. To let go of self-definitions that no longer serve you. What did we put next to the I am? That was very relevant, but now we can let it go. Um, so Venus is also the voice. Of course, we can be more assertive at this time. Not making right now the whole passage of Venus in Aries because I would need to use my chart and all. And I like my Venus wisdom on a Venus day mostly with my face. And that's nearly the only time I make videos with my face because most of them are research videos. But I also want you to get a chance to get to know who is the person behind Spirit of Matter. Um, so Venus in Aries, if you have that natally, uh, I, then that may mean that you need to understand. I would need to see where your moon is, because you will be the type of person who makes things happen, and you would need to assert yourself in your relationships. You would need to have Martian tendencies. However, you would also need to learn how to cultivate Venusian tendencies in your Aries house. So let's say your Aries house is um, the 7th house, okay? Marriage, business partners, and so on and so forth. So uh, you would tend to initiate, and you don't want to kill it, right? You want to initiate, you want to assert yourself, you want to be autonomous in your relationship. It's very important. With Venus in the 7th, it accentuates this house. Um, that being said, you also want to um, learn how to relax and draw things into you every once in a while. And it will be every once in a while. Okay, you would usually be the go-getter who makes things happen. Um, it might be very good for you to be with a business partner that respects your autonomy. And then your Martian abilities are more tending towards the partnership with the business, and if you want to draw in more Venusian into the house. So this can actually um, be a way of not remediation but working with the energy, so you can let the energy of Venus that's drawing things in, being creative and expressing your voice in a way that is Venus oriented. Okay, so Venus has a place to be, and the Aries is a framework, so you can create something new. If you want the good to bring the good out of Aries, do something new, some exciting new discovery. Okay, honor the sense of self. Um, you can bring into a question the importance of the I am, and how is the definition of the self really serving the values and the clarity of mind areas of the person. The sense of autonomy and freedom. Is your definition of your sense of self serving your autonomy and freedom in the world? And you know what? It's good to do the houses too. If it's the first house, then you might be understanding how the way in which you define yourself. If you define yourself, for example, as I am the lone wolf, then it will be very difficult for you to create a relationship. Or if it is finances, if you define yourself as, I don't know, for example, do you define yourself as wealthy? Do you think of yourself as a wealthy person? That's both Jupiterian wisdom, and we began this episode in Jupiter's hour, by the way, but it's also Venusian wisdom. Do you think of yourself as wealthy? Do you define yourself as a wealthy person? Creative, I am creative. Okay. If it's the second house, so this is also the house of your skills, your expenses and income. Then again, wealthy is a big word here. Um, I know how to manage wealth well. Okay, so affirmations is great for this type of activity, but you also act on them. Okay, you find an action and you actually act. Ooh, yeah. I am in the light. I am in the light. Hello. Oh well. And yeah. So if it's the second house, so I'm skillful, and you can add your skill to your definition. Okay, I'm an astrologer, I'm a holistic health practitioner, I'm a writer, a creator, I'm an entrepreneur. You might be an entrepreneur with this combination. And it will all, and you will have a new relationship to wealth, a new relationship to income. Okay, as Venus ingressed into this house, I found myself having a lot of conversations around entrepreneurship. So for me, it's the second house. Okay. And then, how is your definition supportive of your relationship with your skill, with your income, with your wealth, and with your expenses? Okay. I'm a great investor. If the opposition to the second house is the eighth house, and this is the house of shared wealth and investments. What about them? And now with Venus ruling Libra, it's a good time to learn about shares, about stocks, about investments. Not necessarily to invest right now, but actually to have a new relationship with that. Okay, so I have had thoughts about what I really like about Warren Buffett and how um, his generation of wealthy people is actually disappearing slowly from the world. And the question of how do we create an updated generation of wealthy people that do give to humanity, okay? And also what they agree, what they don't agree, okay? What is right or what is right for him, what is right for me, all of these thoughts. So, and learning about, shares and trusts and bonds and all these things, it's a very good time. If it's a second house, a great time to do that. Get learning something new. I'm not saying investing. Third house. Third house is applied practice. It's like the vlog you write every day and your daily routines. So your neighbors, your environment, your neighborhood. How is your definition of your sense of self applies to your relationship with your neighbors? Okay, my a good I don't know. Am I a good neighbor? Am I a good brother? Am I a good sister? It's also third house. Am I a good brother? Am I a good sister? Okay, I am a good brother. I am a good sister. What does it mean for me? Oh, we can have new relationship, a new beginning in the relationship with our siblings or spouses. It's also communication, transportation, public transport. I mean, you have a driving license, okay, or learn to drive, or have a new car. What do you want from a car? What do you value in a vehicle, in a means of transportation? I actually saw a conversation about the United States and how they opted for more roads for private cars across the country rather than to improve the railway infrastructure, while Europe improved the railway infrastructure. Yeah, so this is another conversation that you could have with the third house being accentuated. Venus rules my third house. It's asset in the second, but you could see it in your third, also with an Aries third house. Then, of course, you can write a blog if it's a beauty blog or something like that. Or you might address the issues of beauty in your daily blog, even if it's Aries related. Okay. Also, communication. I actually saw an article about our army being so fundamentalist that there was a story about soldiers serving in Shabbat, which is the sabbatical here, not being allowed to make phone calls in Shabbat, and so to keep Shabbat. And you know, we have Jupiter in Aries, we have Aries with the E in Aries, so, and we have Venus in Aries now, and so um, this religious debate in the army about calling someone on a Shabbat, on a Sabbath, you know, on a sabbatical. And so that was, you know, like a big story in the news. Uh, Aries in the fourth house. So for you, this is your home environment. You can actually begin to decorate. You can begin to um, maintain better relationship in the house. Okay, good relationships, come to compromises with the house of your upbringing, um, other things that can happen there. You can be creative together with your family, listen to music if music unites you. Okay, listen, I have one of my parents, they have Aries in the fourth house. And now with me, you know, they listen more to music. We listen to music together, and we find music in common that we like, and how music is a part of our connection. Okay, so if you have it in the fourth house, you might experience that. Um, Also, you might be able to reach more compromises with the people that you grew up with. Okay, with your parents, or if you are a parent, well, then with your spouse or whomever, with the family dinner, and so on and so forth, so you can reach better agreements, better relationships. This is a potential, okay? You want to make use of the energy. Watch the introduction to get more tools on how to do that. If it is the fifth house, so you might be creative as a hobby, be singing and listening to music as a hobby, or start a new hobby that's to do with beauty, aesthetics, or finances. Now, if you have a problem with gambling, then you know the good potential, you can gamble good, but gambling can be a problem. Okay, so it's better to listen to songs about gambling than to act on it and to gamble. In most cases, again, some investments are gambles, but unless you have, you know, this position that favors your being investing in a game kind of way, or investing in games. We have the eighth house and the fifth house together, very well aspected and dignified. Then, you know, then probably you want to make sure you do something fun with these energies. And even if you involve money in it, let it not be great sums of money. Yeah, I had a story about people who used to play together and they used to play cards, but they would put something as the equivalent of $1, not, you know, $100 billion or your house on it. Okay, so make sure you don't. You can gamble as a game, but make sure you don't make it an addiction. However, if you have addictions to gambling, you can actually have a new relationship to the game around the gamble. Okay? Fifth house is also children. So um, you can reach more compromise with the children. Um, and because the child is less aware of the parent, then you could actually have a child that is more argumentative with you, and you have to be the mature parent. There's more the Venusian or that shows the children how to reach an agreement without giving up their sense of self. Okay, so they might be actually too direct. Okay, they might play the Aries part, and you have to play the Venus part. Okay, or they play the Venus part, and then you have to pay attention that you listen to them. But if you do, you will reach great results. So again, it can be a creative hobby. Um, it's also romantic relationships. So it's a time where you can, with good elections, you can initiate a romantic connection. A love affair. I'm not talking about the extramarital. I'm talking about a love affair that's positive, that is ethical. Um, but you have to make sure that you play it in a way, not play it in a bad sense, but play, like you play your cards correctly, in a way that you maintain your sense of self within your romantic relationship. So you have a new beginning, right? So you can make it so, manifest it so that if you have an affair, it is actually the type of an affair where you both feel that you maintain your I am together, that you actually support each other's identities, that you actually support each other's autonomy and sense of self and creative expression. Then you can really enjoy each other. Then you have to make sure that you don't tie your I am with your romantic partner, because Venus is our values. It can also be spouses, it can also be a love connection, and then Aries is the sense of self. So you want to make sure you don't take your partner into your identity so much so that you cannot individuate, or you can't become codependent, but through Aries. Aries in the sixth house. So Aries in the sixth house can be our pets, which means you can adopt a more Venusian pets. In a way, birds, if they are talking, or parrots, if they're talking, I think can also be partially Venusian. No, birds is Mercury. Venusian animals, or a female pet or something like that. It's also the service we give to others, and it can be employment, being employed, having employees. And so you can reach an agreement. You can unionize. Venus is bringing things together. Aries is freedom. Sixth house is work, is labor. And so you can unionize to maintain your freedoms. But also you can unionize in a way that achieves your goals, your Martian goals, in a way that is more diplomatic. You can reach an agreement in a way that is more diplomatic. So give peace a chance with this one. But then if it doesn't work, then you have the Aries. Then Venus can also be Martian. If you have the tendency to be too agreeable, this is also the time where you can stamp your feet in the ground and say, no, I'm not moving from this point. And this also happens, okay? In Israel, we have these demonstrations that a lot of investors pulling out their money. because there is a very dangerous act that attempts to change the structure of the regime. Now, yeah, it's problematic because the juristic system also needs a change, but unfortunately, this is the stuff that, I think immediately about Syria, because Syria, although it was not a democracy, they had a problem where they needed changes to the regime, but also they needed to maintain the power of marginalized society within the country, and otherwise they will be killed. So it was a complicated situation, where there's a bit of a trap that you have to be very creative to make a third option. It's not either a democracy or being dictators. There also has to be a third option, so we make sure we take care for marginalized societies in a way that they're represented and we account for them in our agendas. And that pertains to any type of regime. But the thing is that the people, the rebels, which is a lot of the people, they were not willing, from the perspective of the people in the government, they were not willing to compromise with the government, or were not willing to sit with the prime minister. And that situation, okay, of extreme rebellion, it can also happen when nobody's trusting anybody anymore, and so the diplomatic ties, or there's a diplomacy that is being offered, but people will not come down from the tree. And sometimes this is for a reason. Okay? Sometimes there are things that you absolutely cannot compromise, and this is also part of the situations you can see. Because the sixth house is labor, then I expect things to be around that. Okay, sometimes a person wants you, or your boss wants you, or maybe you want your employees to compromise something that they cannot compromise. That if they compromise that, they can endanger their well-being. So you can see and see, is the situation requiring a compromise and giving peace a chance, or is the situation actually requiring to become less agreeable? This is also your physical health. Sixth house is also your physical health. And this is where you need to understand, maybe it's something with your physical health that requires you to make no compromises. Or you have to make compromises to your work, your working routine. The conversation, not within my profession, but just, with a random person outside of work, about they were working for 10 hours and they had problems with the feet. So it began with not being able to step on the heel, and then it moved upward, and it moved upward. So I said, okay, you must make sure you do something about this, because otherwise it comes to the head, it becomes mental. And then, they give you beta blockers, and then you can die without preliminary signals from the body, because like you didn't listen to any signals of the body. Eventually the pill that they give you actually includes a substance that shuts the system down, so even if your body signals something, it is not heard. And this is how people die, by medications. So I'm not saying that it's done on purpose. I'm just saying this is the situation. It happens to both people with heart conditions and to people who deal with mental conditions. Okay, the similar pills similar substances are prescribed within the medical treatment. So seventh house, Aries. Again, you can actually marry someone or meet a potential marriage partner, initiate a relationship, or if it is divorce, you can come to an agreement at this time. So you can make good use of Venus. You can get the better side of more dominant people, but also you have to make sure that you don't compromise. If sometimes stomping your feet a bit gives you a better agreement. Also in business, so new joint ventures, or your relationship to the topic of partnership. Okay, something new. How is your identity contributing to healthy relationships? When you say I am, okay, what you put after the I am, okay, Aries, contribute to you having relationships that support your sense of self. It's important. Eighth house Aries. So this is your investments. You can have new investments. You can have investments in Venusian fields that can be, bank related stuff or insurance related stuff, bully collies. And again, I don't know if like I'm not. It's beyond the disclaimer. I genuinely don't know if it's good or bad to put your money there. Now, shared concerns, investment trusts, funds, whatnot. You can learn about these things. You can have a new relationship with how you invest. Okay, when you think about your sense of identity, okay, or I am, does your definition of self, okay, are you a good investor? Okay, do you say I am a good investor? I am a good investor. So how does that, contribute to the way you invest your money, the way you invest your energy, right? Um, and of course, this is also very, very related to in things that are of generational wealth, okay, like investments. Then generational wealth, that can be inheritance, that can be debt that you have. So your new relationship with that, it's a good time to have a new relationship with that. It's a new time to maybe set an appointment with your accountant, or rearrange things with the VAT, IRS, or taxes. Okay, so orient yourself, okay, in a new way. Explain yourself in new ways. Perhaps now, when you have your new revised sense of self, okay, when you regain your sense of self, and in the eighth house, it can be difficult because the eighth house is also about the energy that we share. Okay, remember my previous video, energy. Okay, the energy that we share with people, and if you don't know what is energy that is shared with people, you need to begin to pay attention to that. Okay, like I said, you don't want around you too close people who don't know what's energy, and people who don't advocate for energetic literacy. Yeah, you don't, like I said, you don't want the person who says, "Oh, I don't know what is energy," okay, but they use energy with you, and then they would call on everybody around, and they would say, "No, this person is imagining, this person is having breaks with reality, this person is crazy," and so on and so forth. Yeah, I actually saw something that was quite positive. That was a convention of a union of people who have non-dual experiences, and the definition was correct. Okay, people who experience things and see things that other people don't hear, okay, without delegitimizing those experiences. And this is so important with the eighth house, because eighth house can also be invisible in this sense. It's understanding that if I have some eighth house relationships, it means that those things are also alive in the energy form, and I need to tend to that, right? Think about the difference between, if a person, for example, if you had a non-dual experience, okay, you heard something, you saw something, you felt something, okay, and you go to speak about it with a person, like you're distressed, it causes you distress. Then if you are in Finland, then you will be accepted, you will be acknowledged if you meet by professionals, by open dialogue, and they will discuss with you what happened to you in your life, when did it start, what is it symbol, what does the sign want to say to you. If it is a voice, you can speak, you can advocate for yourself. If it is a voice that is criticizing you, or you can negotiate with the voice, or you can set a boundary to that voice. Also, maybe you need to do changes in your life, and this is a sign And this is how you work with open dialogue to change your life and to see how those non-dual experiences are contributing to you rather than being destructive. Okay? But if you go to some other places, they would give you beta blockers, so your body is shutting down. You will not stop hearing or stop feeling or stop sensing, but you will stop existing, because what these beta blockers do, they block the ability of the body to be heard when it signals that you're about to die. Also, they do increase your chances to have diabetes and heart conditions. Okay, so you could be having a heart attack without preliminary signs. And these beta blockers, also if you're a heart patient, okay, if you have issues with your heart, it's very important. And then you will not get to the doctor because you will not have signs. The body shuts down the ability to tell you, hey, I need help. Unfortunately, many times it is a replay of the initial experience that triggered those non-dual experiences that are not being experienced as something that's supportive of you. Okay, your voice was, you called for help, your body called for help, it was not heard. Okay, and then you go to therapy, and then they give you pills that cause you to develop difficulties that are physical, okay, heart conditions, diabetes, and for your body to not be seen, to not be heard. And even if it is seen, you say, okay, you have, your sugar is a bit high, then it's the pills, then, work out more, but no, it's not enough, no, and so on and so forth. And then you can just simply die, and you won't get help, you won't be seen, you won't be heard. Whereas if you are seen, if you are heard, if you are believed, if somebody accepts you, then you either not have non-dual experiences if they were distressful, or your non-dual experience begins to be like channeling, like inner voices that tell you, that support you. And if you don't know what is energy, it can be the difference between surrounding yourself with people that in time of need will turn you to beta blockers and literally kill you, even if they're the most loving and caring people. I saw psychiatrists with my eyes, okay, that are the most caring, that see that the patients as their children and prescribe these beta blockers. And they still think that if the person just kept on taking the pill, then they would not have to be hospitalized again. Okay, it's not, they're not bad people. So I'm not saying that people who prescribe this are necessarily bad people, but they definitely cause harm, unfortunately. So on the other hand, if a person is seen as non-dual experiences are being listened to and met with a professional that begins to see with you, okay, do you have housing, do you have a safe secure sense of self, are you safe with your relations, with your people, with your family, are you safe, okay, maybe you need to help to express yourself to the people around you, okay, how can they be of help, okay, if it's not the family that is abusive to you, then how can the surroundings be of help, okay, people begin to heal of what is considered the most difficult ailment of all, that is considered schizophrenia. They begin to get back to their sense of self. And Aries is a lot about their sense of self. So, eighth house, energy. Okay, you can begin to have a new relationship with the energy that you share with other people. And this is also affecting your finances. So, new relationship, individuation, okay, is your sense of self compatible with the generational wealth that you want to have in life? Venus, feeling valued, okay, do you feel valued? Energetically, do you feel valued? Do you feel that energies are supportive of you? Ninth house, Aries in the ninth house. So Aries in the ninth house is a classical I think, therefore I am. And so your values become your worldview. Okay, what worldview do I value? Ninth house is also traveling, it's also higher studies. So you can begin to learn something new. Maybe international relations is favoring to start learning international relations. Um, if it's beauty related, research, higher studies, you can travel to Switzerland, learn about Switzerland. It's very Venus ruled. Um, Connections abroad, connections with teachers, okay? And again, think of how the connections you create right now, the ideas you take on, the worldview you take on, the spiritual practice, okay, the house of God, the spiritual concept. How do you think about God? Does it contribute to your sense of autonomy and freedom and your sense of self in the world, your I am? Um, yeah. And of course, the relations with figures in your life that are gurus, that are teachers, that are, the women you meet in the academia, the women you meet when you travel abroad, the women you meet in religious institutions, and so on and so forth. Um, or you can have a guru that is not a woman at all, but you talk about relationships, you talk about aesthetics, morality and aesthetics, okay? And those things and how do they relate to Martian views, okay, views of the Martian arts. Wu Wei is a good concept with this one, Wu Wei, because the lack of effort as a Martian strategy, then that is an excellent disposition to adopt Wu Wei. I've I've seen Wu Wei becoming way more accessible to me as the moon was crossing Venus in Aries, and suddenly I was able to manifest the Wu Wei state, okay, the no effort state of dealing with conflict in my life. It was so exciting, like, oh my God, I would put that in a talisman. Um, 10th house. So, career. So, there can be a new boss. You can become a boss, okay, especially if you're a woman, but not necessarily. And a woman, I mean in the larger sense, okay, it's not what you have between your legs. Um, so, you can be promoted, you can start a business. This is also the house of um, the mother, okay, fourth house, the father, 10th house, the mother. So, how do you relate with your mother? New beginning in that relation, your sense of self, okay, that definition, uh, and so on and so forth. Um, so, this is something that can be very positive. If you listen again, go back to the introduction and listen when I talk about how to work with these energies to your benefit. Um, and then your sense of self and your image to the world. Okay, and this is a bit tricky because Aries is what you put around I am, and the 10th house is what you show to the world. You can put on an image that is a lot more Martian, you can put on an image that is a lot more assertive now, and that can work to your benefit. 11th house Aries. 11th house Aries, um, you can meet a female or women colleagues, renewed relationship with the colleague, or women on social media. That can also be the case for you. Um, how do you define yourself in social media? Um, you can have arguments on social media as well, but you can also come to agreements that can work both ways. If you're having a conference, again, you can play both the Martian way, but also uh, you can be more diplomatic. If you, for example, are a warrior or a security person who gives a talk then you can actually come across as far more diplomatic, to have a message to give. Okay, even if that message is around defense, is around army, armed forces, and so on and so forth. In 11th house is also stocks, so investments in stocks. You can have a new beginning there, new approach. I heard that the dollar became stronger, but then it kind of stopped, or like I'm not following. So you can see, uh, maybe you have some new beginning there, or you have a new idea about how to invest, crowdfunding. So this can be a very good, very favorable. If you find a good election in the coming days, now it's a good time to launch a crowdfunding, especially if you have a new initiation. Maybe you want a patent. Maybe you're a startup, so crowdfunding for startups. Because Venus is bringing things together. It's also finances, also value assets, physical things, sensual pleasure, and Aries is new beginning. It's also in innovation and patents. Okay, private property. Aries is a lot about private properties, not so communist. Um, 12th house, Aries. So 12th house Aries, they can be hidden enemies now. So, or hidden affairs. And then you need to see what aspects of how you define yourself you've not been conscious of that this transit exposes. Maybe you've had a subconscious definition, a subconscious thought of yourself as something, and there comes this Venus thing and either exposes that self definition so that you can become aware of that, or they try to use that against you. You don't understand why does it even affect you so much, and because it is your sense of self, it can be drastic. Okay, so this is a good time to do 12th house charity, and Aries, it can be around startups, around Martian or people who serve in the army, that you support, warriors that have been jailed or silenced for obeying illegal order. It can be a great 12th house charity for a 12th house Aries sign. Okay, female warriors or women that have been hurt by the army. Okay, because Aries can be army, Venus women, so women who are hurt by the army. Then you can be either donating to them, or praying for them, for their voices to be heard, for them to be seen and believed, for their sense of self to be recovered, and so on and so forth. Okay, so many things to do with the 12th house, that is jail, hospital, or hotels. It is also secret bedroom pleasure, so it doesn't have to be negative. It can be something that's actually a hidden love affair. Okay, what you didn't know that you didn't know that you like. Recently read a post by a person who wrote about himself in the profile to say, "I nourish the vanilla." Okay, and they're kinky, but they're like, okay, and understand that there's a side of me that is also vanilla, and I want to nourish it. I want to pamper it. Okay, I want to give myself love in this way, and I find it very interesting. Okay, to see it, to see it when Venus is in Aries. Um, so other definitions of self can change and alter your sensual experience. Okay, what you enjoy. So it can be that you discover your more vanilla, more Venusian side, or alternatively, you discover your more kinky side, your more Martian side, and you celebrate that in the bedroom. The best of cases, you can have a kinky vacation at the hotel that is absolutely ethical, with when fully willingly consenting into something, you discover something you didn't know you didn't know. So this can also happen. Okay, 12th house is not all. It's not an easy house, but it's also it can also bring some exciting surprises with this placement. So I believe I did the most of it. And that was the Venus wisdom on the Venus day dedicated to Venus in Aries and how to work with it. So the screen is entirely black right now, which is very funny. I wonder if it's a Saturn hour and if it started to be this way when Saturn, because I think that's the case. Saturn is black. So I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.